So last week we saw that Ghatotkacha was born, which is the first child, Pandava's first child, born to Bhim and Hidambi. So being Rakshasa, he was huge. So even though baby, he was probably 3 times the size of the Pandavas. So even as a baby, he could carry them, and we see this relationship between the uncles and Ghatotkacha as extremely affectionate, really, really beautifully affectionate. And I think this is where we see this relationship also between Yudhishthira and Bhim. There's not too many incidences where we can enumerate on it, but they had a more special bond than all 5 brothers were incredibly close, but Bhim and Yudhishthira had this very, very special bond. And so for Yudhishthira, Ghatotkacha is the favorite. And so that sometimes that happens with firstborns. It's the first time you feel that, well, for Yudhishthira, it would have been paternal love. And so he, which later on in the Mahabharata we come to see we'll understand the reactions of things later on. But also when do I want to tell y'all? Might as well. So Ghatotkacha gets sacrificed in the war. And it's interesting because he's so loved, and so when he dies in the war, it's just so incredibly painful. But it's not just that he dies. He was sacrificed. Someone had to die, and it was Ghatotkacha. And when Abhimanyu dies in the war, and I know I'm going ahead in the story, so these classes are really not about the story. These classes are really about understanding the Mahabharata. And actually, if you go chronologically, it's very hard to weave because everything is so interwoven. So, but I think most people do know the story of but basically Mahabharata is a war and everybody dies. So I would spoiler. Okay, so Abhimanyu is another favorite, Arjuna's son. And he died, and it was horrible, and it was incredibly unjust. It wasn't a sacrifice on the Pandava side that it was like, how could this happen? And it was just the way the war worked and people die. But with Ghatotkacha, somebody had to die. And Krishna makes sure that it's not Arjuna. And so Ghatotkacha is sacrificed. And so the death is even more painful. Yeah. It didn't just happen. It's almost like it's chosen, right? Like if I have to choose between me and you, who dies? Like that's an incredible choice to have to make. So Arjuna did not make this choice. The Pandavas did not make this choice. Krishna makes this choice. And last week when I was telling the story, the thought came to me that we all born for a purpose and we never know what our purpose is. And Ghatotkacha's purpose was he had to be the one who withstood that weapon. It was a very powerful weapon, which nobody else would have been able to withstand. But Ghatotkacha, being a Rakshasa, having all that extra power, was able to. And then, we tend to think that this is such a sad thing, that he was born to be sacrificed. when you see it in that full picture of Krishna choosing him, and nobody else would have been able to be as effective as Ghatotkacha. In that situation, it actually had to be him. So if you look at totally objectively all the people that existed, even all of us, objectively, you don't bring emotions into it, it had to be him. But we immediately think, so sad and how horrible and how mean. And so, but when we think about a life, what, you know, when a life is lived well, actually, Ghatotkacha would have sacrificed himself. Like he had that much love for not just his father. Oh, he adored his father. Like adored his father. But he adored all the 5 Prantavas. Like he would have happily sacrificed himself. I don't think he knew going in that he was going to get sacrificed. But had he known, he would have opted to. And then it's interesting that we think of sacrifice as this horrible thing. Whereas if he himself chose to sacrifice himself, he's a hero. Like in those Marvel movies now recently, again, spoiler, where Iron Man sacrifices himself. So when I sacrifice myself, I'm a hero. And it's considered such a glorious life. And it's praised. And we look up to them. Even when India was getting its freedom, right? So many people sacrificed themselves for the freedom of India. But I know Indian history. I'm sure every country, lots of soldiers in all countries would have happily gone in there knowing this is it. Yeah. So interesting that we think of sacrifice as a horrible thing and as a beautiful thing at the same time. And this is what dharma is. Like, is it horrible? Is it a beautiful thing? When we sacrifice, it's beautiful, it's dharma. What we sacrifice matters. When we sacrifice, it matters. So it's not so clear cut. Because Bhishma sacrificed the kingdom for his father, and we don't praise that. I mean, we praise it. He got a boon, he can live forever, but he should have been the king. Actually speaking, he shouldn't have given up the kingdom. War would never have happened. But if you think about it that way, 100 reasons the war would never have happened, but the war happened. So certain things are meant to be. And so Ghatotkacha's life is this very small role in the Mahabharata, actually. There's not that much about him. But he has this, being a Rakshasa, he has siddhis. Rakshasas have siddhis. And we have to keep this in mind, that Rakshasas have siddhis, because they're very, very powerful people. And we underestimate how powerful negativity is. We assume positivity will win over negativity, good will win over evil, and it does eventually. But eventually, negativity can be quite strong, even within ourselves, right? Some habit if I've cultivated, so laziness creeps in now, and I'm waking up later and later each day, or I stopped doing my exercise, or, this person, very annoying to talk to, I just ignore 1 week, ignore 2 weeks, ignore 3 weeks, but they need nurturing or looking after or reassuring, or to get rid of that negativity within us. We underestimate how strong it is. And then, of course, best example, giving up your cup of tea or cup of coffee. So hard. Because we underestimate how powerful these tendencies can be. And we have this assumption that we'll be able to conquer negativity. It's nice to have such a positive spirit. But if we underestimate its power, then we're not so successful and we don't equip ourselves. And so a lot of the Mahabharata is, since evil, I don't like to use the word evil, negative tendencies can be strong, goodness and dharma has to be stronger. Only then dharma wins over adharma. Yeah. And the number of times that adharma has won over dharma in the Mahabharata is more. We had to have such a horrendous war because actually adharma won so many times. Bhim was successfully poisoned. Adharma won. They were sent away and they tried to burn them in the house of flags. Kauravas won. Kauravas took over the kingdom. At this point in the Mahabharata, the Kauravas have taken over Hastinapur. Adharma has won. The Pandavas are in the forest, hiding. Yeah. Entertaining themselves with Rakshasas at the moment, but hiding. Adharma has been winning. Yeah. So dharma has to become so strong that it can win over adharma. And if dharma isn't continuously strong, then you have this humongous showdown of the Mahabharata war, which is so drastic. Yeah. But if just dharma is continuously stronger and continuously winning, you don't have to have this. And we see it in people's lives, right? We see it all the time. They put up, they tolerate, there's a little bit this, there's a little bit that, and then choom, this humongous fight, this humongous outburst, this humongous, even within ourselves, we see it. Yeah. Very often when people come to speak to me, the line that is interesting that I hear people say a lot, I don't like who I'm becoming. We even recognize it, huh? I don't like that I'm taunting. I don't like that I'm complaining. I don't like that I'm always so fearful. I don't like that I am, adharma's winning. We think when it's a big thing, it's a dharma. All the small things are a dharma also. And we let it win without maybe consciously realizing, or because our strength of dharma isn't as strong. Ghatotkacha had this siddhi that if Bhim ever thought of him, not even just said his name, just thought of him, he would appear in front of Bhim. So from wherever he was, twing, he would appear where Bhim was in front of him and say, yes, you call, literally like a genie. I'm sure all parents are thinking, I wish I had that power over my kids. I'd be able to find them when I'm wondering where they are at 3 a.m, just say their name and tongue, they're home in their bed. Bhim had that. Bhim could just think of Ghatotkacha and he was there. See, we should develop some siddhis. Will even make our daily life so much more easier. But as I mentioned last week, Ghatotkacha lived with Hidambi in the forest. And he occasionally met the Pandavas, but not very often. So now This, I mentioned this last week as well. Kunti was very, very focused on nothing should come between the five brothers. So now Bhim's married and has a kid. Nothing should come between the five brothers. So Hidambi stays in the forest and the five of them with Kunti continue. And they go and stay in this village and they stay with the Brahmana family. And again, this is a very small incident in the Mahabharata war, but so much philosophy discussion around it. In this village, a Rakshasa used to visit and attack and kill many people and take all the food. So the village came up with an agreement with the Rakshasa that every week they would give a cartload of food and one person to the Rakshasa. That way, they weren't getting randomly attacked and 3-4 people dying every 2-3 days. And actually, I've seen this now in many plots in movies. One person gets weekly sacrificed. That's why I decided to speak about Ghatotkacha being sacrificed. So the Pandavas are living for 1 year in this house in total. At some point in that 1 year, Kunti hears the mother crying. She goes out, what's wrong? And so they all sitting and they deciding it was mother, father, kid in the house. Who will go? It was their turn to send somebody with the cartload of food and sacrifice themselves to the Rakshasa. And the father said, I'll go. I'm the oldest and strongest member, and I wouldn't be able to live without the two of you or live with myself if I let either of you go, so I'll go. The mother said, no, if you go, you're the breadwinner who will look after the kid. You have to stay. You have to continue being the breadwinner, and I'll go. And the kid said, no way, I'll go, because as y'all have done so much for me, and as my gratitude to how much y'all have done for me, I cannot make you sacrifice and give me even more, so I will go. Plus, I'm already old enough, and I am happily doing this myself. And then, so everyone's crying now, and everyone's like, no, I'll go, I'll go, I'll go. And finally, they decide, well, we can't choose one, so we'll all go. And so decision is made. We live together, we'll die together, we'll be together, and nobody will have to live with this feeling of, I allowed this person to die so that I could live, which would really be a horrible feeling to have to live with, especially when it's family, when it's anyone actually. So Kunti hears them crying, and Kunti says, don't worry, you all have been so amazing to host us and generous to allow us to be staying in your home for this long a period of time. I will send my son Bhim. The lady immediately thinks, no, how can we get you? Just no, like, you know, you were guest, Atiti Deva Bhava, and then you send your child. No, we're not sending our child. How can we ask you to? And Kunti said, don't think about it. Because, you know, Bhim is very good with Rakshasas. Left hand only. He doesn't even need both hands. He can kill a Rakshasa. So Kunti was very confident. Kunti was very, very confident that Bhim would be victorious and the Rakshasa would be destroyed and the whole village would be saved from this weekly sacrifice, which is what Kunti's thinking, right? She's not saving one family. She wants to save everyone from now onwards. And she manages to convince this lady, and she said, like, you know, I'm not telling you out of what's the word, like obligation or anything. I promise you it will be fine. And wouldn't you rather spend another day with your husband and your child than to have to go and face the Rakshasa? And anyway, she convinces him and they go. So Bhim Bhim is so excited. Why is Bhim excited? So Kunti goes and tells Bhim, I got this project for you. Will you do it? He is so excited. I get a cart full of food. The Rakshasa thought is not even featuring in his head. I get a cart full of food. Happily, I will do this. You're the best mother in the whole world. Thank you so much. Why? Because they've been living as beggars. So when you live as beggars, the law of begging, so even for sannyasis, is you're allowed to ask people only once a day for food, because I can't just keep asking people for things. And then you have to put your hands together, and whatever fits on your hands, that much you take. Not that you take one big suitcase here, empty your house, give me everything. Yeah, people live simpler lives then. Today, okay, you can take suitcase. Everyone has very big cupboards, especially America, Australia, they have big cupboards. They fill big packets of everything they have in their house also. Hong Kong, we have small. We don't have big cupboards. Those days, no fridges and all of that. So whatever fits in your hand. So now 5 of them would go begging, come back with how much food? What fitted on their hand? How much is that? Then Kunti would put all of it together, divide it in half. Half went for Bhim. And the other 5 of them shared half. And after they finished eating, Bhim would say, can I have more? So he was so excited that a whole cart full of food he was going to be getting. So he takes the cart up early in the morning. He has to go something like Brahma Muhurat time, 3 a.m. He's taken the cart and he's gone. And he thought, before I call the Rakshasa, some bell was there to tell the Rakshasa, come, I'm here waiting for you. He said, let me finish the food first. Because, after I fight with the Rakshasa, blood, bone everywhere, the food will get spoiled. First, let me finish the food. So he's sitting there licking his fingers, enjoying himself. And the Rakshasa comes. Who's this eating my food? How dare you eat my food? And Rakshasa comes all gung-ho to get Bhim, thinking Bhim is some useless human. Bhim holds him back. Wait, I'm finishing. In the meantime, Yudhishthira and Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadev wake up. And where's Bhim? Bhim doesn't wake up early. Yudhishthira wakes up early, does his meditation. Arjuna wakes up early, goes and practice archery. Nakula, Sahadev wake up early, do their duties. Bhim sleeps. Bhim doesn't do morning puja. Bhim wakes up and says, Shiva, I love you, bas. Enough. He doesn't do so Bhim usually is the last one to wake up. Today he's not there. So Kunti says, no, I sent him as, for the Rakshasa. Yudhishthira says, what kind of mother are you? How can you send him to fight a Rakshasa? Kunti is looking like firstly, Yudhishthira never says anything to her. Suddenly he said, and this is how you see how much Yudhishthira loves Bhim. How can you send my brother? Like, what if something happens to him? Kunti is thinking, what if something happens to Bhim? You should be worried about the Rakshasa. Have you forgotten your brother is stronger than any Rakshasa? Oh, yeah. No, what you did was right. But first reaction of Yudhishthira was, what if something happens to Bhim? It's so sweet, right? Actually, all their characters. So sweet. Nakula, Arjuna, Sahadev, they won't say anything. If Yudhishthira talks, they don't talk. Like even that level of discipline, you don't see today. If Yudhishthira is talking, nobody else should talk. They had that much respect for Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira was worthy of that kind of respect also. They're just watching entertainment. Yudhishthira worried about Bhim of all people on the planet. Kunti's expression like, Yudhishthira, why are you speaking to me this way? You're usually so dharmic. Okay, so Beam destroys the Rakshasa, comes back. And the only request that Kunti made is nobody know that Beam went because they in hiding. And if stories get around that a Rakshasa was killed, everybody will know it could only be Beam. And so some story was made that somebody came, something happened, we don't know, we were sleeping before we could even go. When we went, he was, and all of that got sorted out. But this chapter in the Mahabharata is there because who should we sacrifice? In this occasion where somebody has to be sacrificed, who should be sacrificed? And a rule is given. The rule that is given is an individual can be sacrificed for a family can be sacrificed for a village can be sacrificed for a country. So logically, this makes sense, right? One person saves so many people. How you'll choose that one person? How will we choose that one person? And this is a real, very valid question because 2 years ago when COVID hit, and in countries where, so many countries, and even recently in Hong Kong also we've experienced it, there's not enough hospital beds. There's not enough medication. There's not enough ventilators. Who do you give the medicine to? Who don't you give the medicine to? Who do you give the bed to? Who don't you give the bed to? Unfortunately, people with money will get. Are they the ones that should get it? So in a lot of countries, that didn't apply. To some extent, it did apply. To some extent, it didn't apply. The pandemic was too big. After a while, even money didn't feature. On a regular, smaller day crisis, money will win. But pandemic was that bad that money no longer featured. Then most countries made the criteria on age. You agree? You'll agree? Most people did agree. It's interesting that most people did agree, except when that's your parent. And then what if it's you? Also, even though Mahabharata gives this rule, it says, if you sacrifice the older people, you've lost that wisdom. Anyways, this generation, we're losing that wisdom because they don't learn it. But the elderly are the ones that can guide. They have the wealth of experience. Also, anyone who's lost a parent will understand this. You suddenly feel vulnerable. So then you lose your whole in one. It's an incredible psychological impact on us. When we lose our elders, that truly impacts us psychologically. Physically, it might make logical sense. They've lived longer. It's let them go. They would have died before us anyways. That doesn't mean it doesn't have ramifications in terms of our psyche. And it doesn't mean it doesn't have ramifications in terms of the operation of society. So how do we choose? And the answer is, we really can't. Because no one life is more valuable than another. The scriptures tell us that same divinity is shining in each heart. That one consciousness is reflecting in so many buckets or mirrors, right? Like when you walk into a room of mirrors, one you reflected in so many mirrors. And so from one point of view, what does it matter which mirror you crack? But from another point of view, they're all the same. So it's either all or none. And the reason this is so important for us to understand that no life is more precious than another is because, when did I speak about this? Last week? I can't remember in which class. What's our worth? We base our worth on looks. We base our worth on bank balance. We base our worth on how many people we know, how many follow us on Instagram, how popular we are, how many people will listen if I talk. Not just me, anybody. Is that our worth? How much I can do, how intelligent I am, how skillful I am, how many places I've traveled to. Is that our worth? What's our worth? What makes us worthy? We don't think about this. Or when we think about it, we attribute it to things. So a person who goes to work 9 to 5, they worthwhile. Mother who stayed home with the kid, not as worthwhile. Less now, but that used to, and to some extent still there. What's our worth? Leave the house and get a job. I was talking about I was talking with the kids about movies because that's their world, right? Everybody's world nowadays. I was talking about how cultural differences in how movies are made. So a country like Korea, Thailand, the hero has to always be very good looking, and bonus if they're very rich. In a Chinese Mandarin movie, the hero has to be intelligent, has to be seen as intelligent. Doesn't have to be seen as good looking. They usually are though. And definitely doesn't have to be rich. What's our worth? In mainland China, intelligence. In Korea, being rich. Good looking all over the world. Criteria for good looking, very different in different places. That's how we are judging our worth. I don't do enough. I don't have enough. That's how we're judging our worth. But what is our worth? When we have to choose who lives, who dies, how do we choose? She's prettier, let her live? Never. There's no criteria. Life is life. Already you're worthwhile. Divinity reflecting in your heart, you are worthwhile. Whether you're a beggar or you're a king. Why we have to complicate things? This is why self-esteem didn't feature in Eastern thinking. Self-esteem is when we attribute our worth to things. Traditionally in Eastern thinking, no more, because now Western thinking has entered Eastern thinking. In Eastern thinking, traditionally, your worth is life. Divinity reflecting in me is life. Worthy. Old, young, thin, fat, tall, thin, short, whatever. Have teeth, don't have teeth, have hair, don't have hair, doesn't matter. Divinity reflecting in. Done. Worth. We complicate things. Also, when we know that our worth is divinity reflecting in us, what makes us worthy? Shouldn't we focus on the things that make us worthy? When we think beauty makes us worthy, how much we focus on beauty. When we think money makes us worthy, how much we focus on money. If divinity is what is making us worthy, little bit at least we should focus on it. No, that much that we focus on beauty, we should be focusing on divinity. That much that we focus on money, we should be focusing on divinity. Then zero self-esteem issues would exist in the world. Because what's my worth? Reflection of divinity. How am I a reflection of divinity? I'm so horrible, mean, and carouse. You alive? Yeah, reflection of divinity. Only criteria needed. But actually, if I focus on divinity, I'll become more beautiful. Okay. Then somebody will say, you tell too much philosophy. Where's the story? While they're living in this Brahmana's house, this storyteller dude comes. Who's the storyteller dude? Do you remember Drupada? Who's Drupada? He was a king. Very good. He was friends with Drona. He did this wonderful havan so that he could have a son that could kill Drona. The son had to kill Drona. And then he had a daughter who would marry Arjuna. But now the whole world cried because Arjuna died in the fire. He didn't really die in the fire. But they pretended, and word got back to, they had funeral also. Who had funeral? Duryodhana and gang. They had the funeral, they cried, they wore white, they called the pandits, they fed them full. Arjuna's dead. Who is Draupadi going to marry now? She was born out of fire to marry Arjuna. So Drupada says, I think Arjuna is still alive. Also, there were whispers. Rakshasa was killed in some village. Sounds like being. There were whispers. 5 young men, very well-built, good-looking, walking with one very elegant old lady in the forest. Must be Pandavas and Kunti only. Did you see them? Was it Pandavas? No, I don't know, but must be. Gossip, no? There were whispers here and there. Pandavas are still alive. So Drupada thought, if Pandavas are still alive, I shall find them. Because Draupadi was born to marry Arjuna. If she's born out of fire, she's born out of yagna, means it will come true. So somehow now we have to find Arjuna and bring him here for the Swayamvar. So he trained 100 men on telling the story and then sent them out to all the villages to go and tell the stories to all the people in all the villages. Which story? About how the Drona went to the Hastinapur, trained the Pandavas. Arjuna was the best archer. The Pandavas helped Drona defeat Drupada, and how in that moment Drupada did the havan, how Drishtadyumna was born, and then was born Draupadi. Now, if you want to hear how to describe a person, you have to learn from Mahabharata. When Bhim was being described by Hidambi, wow, you'll want to marry him. Now, when you hear Draupadi's description, you'll want to marry her. They describe the eyes, they describe the eyelashes, and how the end of the eyelashes shine. It's like too much detail, yeah. She had nice eyes. No. She had eyes that sparkled and were the shape of almonds, with lashes that curled at what degree, and the tips shone in the sunlight. Wow. And then the amount they describe all the curves in a body is way too much detail. Every curve they have described, huh? Every curve. And then they end with many beautiful things that we, in Instagram, you all need to see her description and you need to groom yourself the way she's described. But the last line is what I found the most humorous. Her hair smells good. This must be an important qualification for a husband, right? If he's sleeping with her, she should smell good. No, not only she smells good, her hair smells good. But no, that was her beauty. So the story lasted how long? 10 minutes. Draupadi's beauty description is 15 minutes. Now her skill, how many different styles of hairstyles she can make, how she's apt at dressing herself in different ways, how she has been trained in archery, how she has been trained in cooking, how she's been trained in politics and diplomacy, how she has been trained. Wow, such a long list. Her resume looks really good. So, storyteller is telling story. Pandavas are listening. Arjuna is drooling. From their eyes, only Kunti thought this is trouble. That night, after they heard the story, all 5 Pandavas dreamt of Draupadi. Please note, not only Arjuna. Even though storyteller was very clear that she was born to marry Arjuna. Everyone should have noted that, right? No. All 5 of them dreamt of Draupadi. Why would they dream of Draupadi if she's meant to marry only Arjuna? Because of the description. Desire enters our hearts through 2 doors. You know which 2 doors? No? Which 2 doors?
Eyes and ears.
Yep. Eyes. When we see, we want food, clothes, postcard. I remember I saw that one postcard of that one place and I didn't know where it was, how much I looked for that place. Where is this place? Where is this place? Where is it? Still haven't found it. When you see something, then you think, I want. It's good only. Good, I didn't find it. No need to have desires. That's why they make previews also, right? So then you get tempted. Oh, what looks interesting. When you go to shop to buy food, they let you taste. Why they let you taste? But eyes are very super dangerous. Ears are more dangerous. Why ears are more dangerous? When I see it and I want it, I know what I'm getting. When I hear about it, she's so beautiful, so beautiful, so beautiful. You can't take your eyes off her. Her skin is so soft, so delicate. You'll imagine. And how will you imagine it? As per your likes and dislikes. So it's more enticing because you making it up as per your vasana requirement. When we hear, the desire is even more. That's why scriptures are clear. Don't listen only. Listen satsang. Don't listen to gossip. If you listen, it plays on the mind. Don't listen, this one has this one has that. When you listen, you'll want. It's just the way the mind works. You don't want it also. You hear it enough times, you'll want it. You have to be really strong. People who love these gadgets, people have different loves. People who love these gadgets, then they'll tell me, you don't have earpods? I'll get for you. No, don't get for me. No, they're so good. They're so convenient. The sound is so crisp. It becomes so easy. No, don't get for me. Then at least 10 people will tell me, I'll get. Then I'll think, should I get? Maybe I should get. And I'll be like, no. It's just natural. Yeah. New restaurant. First person will tell you, let's go chutney. Your restaurant is chutney now. Second person will tell you, I'll take you. No need. I have enough chutney in my fridge. Third person. Then after a while, I think maybe I should go check it out. This is normal. It's how our mind works. Advertising knows that our mind works that way, and that's why adverts will come repeatedly. You won't see an ad only ever once. It won't work if you see it only once, unless your vasana for that thing is so strong. It works because you see again. Even with good things, like these meditation apps. You get onto Cathay Flight and Headspace is an option for you. Think, Then your friend tells you about it. Then it's in the magazine. Then it's on YouTube. And you think, what's this Headspace? Let's see. You see it enough times. Repetition. Pandavas didn't need repetition of Draupadi's description. One night was enough. All 5 of them were interested. Kunti noted. Kunti noticed all 5 of them were interested. Kunti knew the only way the Pandavas will survive is if the Pandavas are united. There is no way the Pandavas will survive if they're not united. The only way Yudhishthira can rule the kingdom is if the Pandavas are united. United, the Pandavas can fight any enemy. Divided, they'll destroy each other. That's all of us, right? Our strength comes in unity. Kunti understood this very well. Why did Draupadi have to marry all 5 of them? They all fell in love with her. Very often it's said, Kunti didn't see and said, but at this moment itself, when she saw their eyes, and you can see desire in people's eyes. Like this, you can see it. Even earlier today, I offered somebody something. They wanted it, but dieting, no. You can see they want it. What comes out of here is not the truth. What comes from here is the truth. Kunti saw all five of them had desire. So this storytelling dude was very efficient, very effective. He successfully kindled desire in the Pandavas' hearts. And in the story he's telling, and I was told to tell the story because you never know when the Pandavas are listening. And the Pandavas all nod because they were listening. Next morning, Kunti says, shall we go to Drupada's kingdom? They were all surprised. Kunti is saying, very happily, they left to go to the Swayambar of Draupadi. Draupadi's Swayambar was amazing. She was dressed extremely beautifully. I don't know if I mentioned this. When the son Drishtadyumna was born, the voice of the heaven said that he would successfully kill Drona and rule Drupada's kingdom. When Draupadi was born, the voice of the fire said she would be the cause of the destruction of the entire Kuru dynasty. So when Drupada did that havan, he was very efficient. He not only got his revenge on Drona, but he made sure that whoever supports the Drona is completely destroyed. Draupadi was the reason the entire Kuru dynasty was destroyed. She didn't cause the destruction. She was the instrument. When we talk about women's rights, sometimes we don't recognize the power a woman already has. We only look at the power she doesn't have. Draupadi was the first, well, can't be the first because creation existed long before. But Draupadi was a feminist. She was a trendsetter. She was one of the first who fought for rights. She didn't get what she fought for. You'll all know the incident. After the game of dice, she was insulted and they tried to remove her clothes. She fought for rights. She didn't win. But the entire war was fought to avenge her insult. She didn't win, but she was still incredibly powerful. Winning doesn't make us powerful. Our ability to influence other people is our power. Draupadi could influence people. Earlier I said, if Bhishma became the king, the war wouldn't have happened. If Draupadi said no, the war would not have happened. One word from Draupadi and there'd be no war. The war was for Draupadi. Is that not power? The Mahabharata is not the only war that has been fought because of a woman. Does that give women a bad reputation? Plenty wars were fought because of men also. But interesting how we perceive it when a man is the cause of a war and when a woman is the cause of a war. Just be aware of how you perceive it, how you judge it. Equality is people. But we're not quite there yet. It's okay. We have to get to moksha. Along the way, we'll get all these things also. Okay, so they've arrived at, what's the name of the city? Draupada's kingdom. His kingdom. The Kauravas are all there. Duryodhana is there. Karna is there. Dushashan is there. They all there. So the Pandavas have to be very careful. They still in hiding. This makes no sense to me. Arjuna is going to definitely win that competition and their cover is blown, but they still in hiding. Duryodhana is also married at this point. So why he's there, I'm not sure. He already has a wife by this point. But I guess it's a big event. You want to be where everyone else is. Maybe you join the party. They were allowed more wives, but he didn't compete for her. Duryodhana didn't compete for Draupadi. Karna competed for Draupadi, but he was stopped. This is another irony of that time. Draupadi could stop anyone she wanted from participating in the competition if she didn't want to marry them. So, but Bhishma can kidnap princesses. It's a bit contrary, no? We still do such things now. Yeah. Is Dharma so clear-cut? No. Bhishma couldn't kidnap princesses, but Draupadi can stop people from participating in her Swayamvar. So what's right? Sometimes it's just what we decide. And actually, it doesn't matter as long as you're willing to face the consequences of it. Whatever it is that you do, be willing to face the consequences of that thing. In my short experience in life, we underestimate the consequence. When it comes, we think, I wouldn't have done it if I knew this was going to happen. You knew this was going to happen? No. Yes, you did. Yeah. Like drink driving. Is it a big deal? Yeah. Maybe not as much. We know we don't have as much alertness after we've drunk. We know it's dangerous. Then so many still do. And the accidents are horrible. So loss of property, okay. But for some people, that's also hard, huh? Not everyone can be so affording and times are tough. And then loss of property in places like America where you need to drive to work every day can cause incredible amount of strain. Loss of health, loss of lives, loss of limbs, or loss of license. Again, in places like Australia, America, if you lose your license, you knew this could happen. I didn't think it would happen. But you knew it could? We do. We just feel we'll be able to get away with it. What do we feel we'll get away with? Insulting someone. We don't get away with it, huh? And more than one person will face the consequences of me insulting people. I think I've mentioned this before. There's a clip on YouTube about Obama insulting Trump. Trump had no desire at that point to become president of America. Obama laughs at him, taunting that you could never become president. They show you Trump's face. After that, he decided to run for president. One insult. And you see Obama saying it. Obama definitely thought he'd get away with it. You can see it. You can see Obama's face. He completely thinks he's going to get away with saying this. And the video clip is made very cheekily. Then they show the scene of Trump going into the White House. Obama leaving the White House. He didn't get away with the insult. He did not get away with the insult, and the whole world had to pay for it. Maybe the world had to pay for it more than Obama had to pay for it, because people still adore Obama. But he insulted. We do the same. Taxi driver, helper. We think we can just get away with it. Our parents, our siblings, our kids. We just say, we don't realize consequence. Mahabharata is to show us consequences of actions. So in this scene itself, we see Drona's actions have consequences. This event happening is because Drona insulted Drupada. Yeah. All of it is taking fruit. They are dressed as Brahmanas. All the kings try to perform the task. This is the picture of the Mahabharata, which Arjuna shooting the arrow into the eye of the fish, which is stuck on a wheel, rotating. That was the challenge. The challenge was something that only Arjuna would be able to accomplish. Karna would have been able to accomplish it. And you would think there'd be a few other proficient people around. Huh? Like, why is Arjuna the only proficient person around there? But quite an innovative task to have to overcome. Somebody gifted me a book on the Diwali. It had the story of the Ramayana. And it said that Ram won Sita by shooting the eye of a fish rotating on a wheel, looking at the reflection. It's a printed book in circulation. I was like, how is this allowed? Ram won Sita by lifting up Shiva's bow. Arjuna won Draupadi by shooting the eye of a fish stuck to a wheel. It's a printed book being sold. Really, as Hindus, we're very lax. How we allow such a book to be circulating? Yeah, that writer also didn't do his research. It's not fusion, it's confusion. It's not fusion. If you're going to tell a story, tell it right. Unfortunately, in the Mahabharata period, the caste system was very much alive. And so Kshatriyas were given the first choice. No Kshatriya was able to fulfill the task. So Arjuna volunteers, but he's dressed as a Brahmana. And he's hidden under Vastra, and dhoti. And so you can't see Arjuna figure because otherwise you can tell this is no Brahmana. Brahmanas are skinny. So sticking gentle, soft bodies from doing puja part. Arjuna's this like robust, atta, katta, got all the curves in the right places. um, so Arjuna shoots, and this scene, Krishna is watching. Up until now, we have not seen Krishna in the Mahabharata. First time we meet Krishna in the Mahabharata, he's sitting, watching the Swayamvar. There's a story which is not in Mahabharata proper. It's a more Bhakti Shastra, but I love this story. Draupadi was actually in love with Krishna. She had known him from her childhood. Yeah. Draupadi in the Mahabharata is referred to as Krishna, the feminine form of the word name Krishna is usually given to the wife, but it was given to Draupadi when she was born. And so Krishna, feminine, is Draupadi. And maybe that's why she loved him already. So at the Swayamvar, she was actually not shy bride type. Draupadi was very with it. So when Karna woke up, she said, no, no, no. She was already knowing what to do. But at one point, she was looking down and she saw these feet pass her. It was Arjuna, but she thought it was Krishna. And then she heard the crowd cheer because he had shut the eye. And she smiles, thinking Krishna's one, and agrees to the marriage. This is not in Mahabharata proper. And then the story goes, because Krishna tells her to marry Arjuna, she marries him. But it's a sweeter story. Mahabharata is not as sweet. Anyways, Krishna is watching. And Krishna smiles when Arjuna stands up. Krishna and Arjuna have already met, but we've not seen it. Right? Krishna and Arjuna are cousins. Or have they met? I know you're saying no, because he hasn't met Kunti. But Arjuna is the form of Nara, and Krishna is Nara. Have I said this already? You've heard. Have I spoken about it? Arjuna is the form of Nara. I think maybe I've spoken about it when I spoke about Arjuna being born. Krishna is Narayana. So Arjuna and Krishna are Nara and Narayana on earth. This is also why Ghatotkacha got sacrificed. It wasn't because of Arjuna. It was because this pair couldn't be broken. This Nara Narayan pair have to be there at any given point in time to bless this earth. So it was either Arjuna or Ghatotkacha. And so Krishna sacrifices Ghatotkacha. Also, if Arjuna had died, the war would have ended. Ghatotkacha wouldn't have been able to win the war. that when Ghatotkacha died, Arjuna was able to win the war. Still doesn't make it right, because no one life is more precious than the other. But we do the best we can. So Krishna is smiling, because even though he can't see Arjuna, he knows it's Arjuna. And he's watching Arjuna walk up to the pond, and he watches Arjuna win. And then the entertainment really starts. Every prince in that Swayambar is furious that a Brahmana has won Draupadi. And there's a full-on fight between Arjuna and Bhim and every prince there, including Karna, Duryodhana, Dushashan. Guess who wins? Arjuna and Bhim alone are able to defeat every prince there. But before it gets any blood was actually shed, Krishna says, okay. And they all listen to Krishna. Okay, we'll see next week. Questions? It's very cool. The minute that prince challenged Arjuna, Bhim, like lightning speed, was next to Arjuna. Like, don't worry, bro, I'm here for you. He was sitting on the stands watching, yeah, Arjuna would win. And then suddenly this guy gets up. So fast, Bhim was next to Arjuna. Yudhishthira, Nakula, Saladev chilling with Kunti, watching the show. No questions? Arjuna didn't think it was weird that a woman must wait for him. Do you know how many women were made for Arjuna? Yeah. You read the description of Draupadi's beauty. I'm telling you, you'll want to marry her. You're just lucky you got chosen. Arjuna didn't mind at all that this woman was born. After hearing her beauty, he's like, thank goodness she's mine. No, they were kings. They were used to things belonging to them, fated to them. Kingdom was fated to them. Wealth is fated to them. Arjuna, fame is fated to him. She wasn't going to kill his guru. Drishtadyumna, you cannot fight with Yagna. If Yagna is done and the fire gives a verdict, you cannot fight with it. It's a force far greater than you. No, Arjuna was not at all fazed by having a destiny. Actually, that's an amazing thing about Arjuna. He was very gracious. He was destined for fame. He handled it beautifully. Except for those few moments when the Gita had to be taught to him. didn't handle it so well. But you know, we all have our off days. And how cool is Arjuna's off day? The Gita got taught. We should have such off days.
You see stories like you knew them intimately.
You know, when you read it, you feel like you know them. It's written so beautifully. Also, I'm very blessed. I heard it from my guru. So when you hear, you feel like, you know, you add your little. That's why I can't watch these TV series on Mahabharata. I can't watch. They don't look like that. These actors are all wrong. They don't talk like that. They don't stand like that. No, no, no. Who does Arjuna look like? So even though Arjuna is extremely strong in my head, there's a gentleness in his face. Because you see it when the way he loves Krishna. In fact, you see it even in the way he loves Subhadra and Draupadi as well. There's a gentleness about his being. Om Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamutachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.